Hello.
Hey, what's going on?
Welcome back to the show.
It's the podcast. We are starting a cult with Grant.
It's
this
true.
is him, and that's me, Jake, here.
I am Grant. That is my pal and confidant, Mr. Jake.
It's true.
And we are joined, honestly, see, we used to be joined by Mitch all the time, but then now, it's like he comes later, so...
Now he's fishing all the time. He's working.
He's not here a lot, but now we're always joined by Navi. You know, Navi is here.
Navi, the dog, who I think just dropped a clothespin that he loves so much behind the couch.
Yes, I actually did give him a clothespin.
He's very upset.
Woof, woof.
As you can hear.
If you can hear him in there, he's having a good time. But we are here today to... We're going to start the Halloween season off right.
Because it's October 1st, okay? It's spooky season.
It is. It's time for us to... I don't have a good metaphor or anything like that.
It's like something really scary.
It is. It's that time of year.
What's up, dude?
I've been having a great afternoon thus far. We've been watching some YouTube, having some drinks. It's good. It's a good
true.
time.
I drink a coffee.
Yeah, Jake did not partake in the drinkage.
I could.
It's mostly just me.
Yeah. But
I'm
it's
like
Friday, dude. You're off work. You got to have a beer to kick off the weekend.
Hell yeah. And we're going to kick off your weekend, or maybe your week. I don't know what your guys' listening schedule is. But we're going to kick it off with an oldie but a goldie, all right?
Oh, wow.
Lizzie Borden.
Yes, goldie like a goldfish.
How about that? And I got to say, I guess I don't think I'd ever truly paid attention to the Lizzie Borden story as much as I should have. Because, I knew kind of what everybody knows. Like, she killed her, her stepmom and her dad, and that's, whatever. And then, but I will say, I feel like just doing research for this episode, I've learned there's a lot more to it.
It's all very weird, yeah.
It's very weird, and it's super influential for more than one particular reason. And it's just all around, it's a great way to start off the month of October.
It's a great way to start it off.
So I
you're
think,
right.
Without further ado, we got any announcements? Anything big coming?
What do we have to announce? It's Halloween season. Mm-hmm. Well, no, this episode is really the announcement of that.
Yeah,
Navi's going through a suitcase over there. He's pulling out socks.
That's fine. Those are just my clothes.
This is just what's happening.
It's fine. He'll be okay.
Either way, I don't think we have any announcements.
No, I mean, typically we don't really have announcements. See, that's the joy of this show. We're not some big fucking, podcast. We just do this.
We just talk.
We just do it because, you know what? This is what we would... Realistically, if we didn't do this, we would be in the other room doing this.
So pretty much. We just have microphones now.
So we just kind of we hone in on that, and we just put it all into one effort.
Yeah.
And we have a good time. So I hope you guys, obviously, if you're listening to this episode, this is what, 132?
Something. We're in the 130s, and isn't that impressive?
We are literally, it is a very somber, I guess somber is a bad word.
Somber's a bad thing.
It's a very sobering thing to sit back and realize that there's over 150 hours of Jake and myself just on the internet right now, free to anybody that wants to listen. It's just
you just listen to us talk, yeah.
We're just there. We're just here to keep you company. You could literally fill up about 5 full days of your time just listening to us.
Doesn't that sound like hell?
Honestly, yeah.
Sobering indeed. That's why you need the drink.
I am myself, and I would be outraged if I had to do that.
No, yeah. Yep, I agree.
But I think you guys will really like this episode. It's going to be a lot of fun. You might learn something. I don't know. I feel like I'm always speaking for myself here. But I can say that as far as Lizzie Borden goes, I never really got to go past the surface of that story until this week.
No, it's true. And the song, whatever the song is.
Yeah, was it she gave her mother 40 whacks?
And then
something happened and she gave her dad 41?
That rhymes with 10 and then gave him 10.
I
don't know.
Weird.
That's probably something we should have prepared for, considering
I'll pull it up.
Lizzie Borden.
I'll pull it up. Don't worry. We'll get to it in this story.
All right.
But why don't we jump right in and begin?
Let's just go right at the beginning.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, let's do it.
So Lizzie Andrew Borden, all right, her middle name's Andrew, was born in July 19th of 1860 in River Falls, Massachusetts, to Andrew and Sarah Borden. All right, so just a standard family, okay? Lizzie's father, though born of an affluent family, began his professional life struggling financially, okay? Born rich, now he fucked up, now he has to maybe do something about it. This was only temporary, however, because his manufacturing and sale of furniture and caskets, as well as a director position in many textile mills, as well as his higher-up involvement in the Union Savings Bank of Dufree Safe Deposit and Trust Corporation, quickly made him and his estate worth more than $9 million today, about $300,000 back then.
Wow. I think it's fair to say, if we're going to translate this into current terminology, he was the master of the side hustle. You know
very
what I
much
mean?
so. He made quite a bit of money.
I know that sounded like the most white bread generic thing you could ever
It was
hear.
the side hustle.
But it's just true. I mean,
No, it
this
is
dude,
true, man. He just made it work.
He had money coming in from a lot of different places, and he came from not necessarily riches, but he came from money, you know.
Affluence.
So
affluence.
He came from it, kind of went on his own, didn't have it, and then fucking boom, this dude just did not stop. He had cash.
Yeah. And obviously his past of losing a bunch of wealth that he may have once had before he gained all this, at this point, it may have left an impression on him. Because despite his vast wealth, Andrew Borden was known for his fragility. Frugality. Damn it. Frugality.
That's like me. I mean, I don't have money like him, but I am a frugal bastard.
No, you gotta be. You gotta be.
I will say, nobody. The one person I know, David, if you're listening to this, David is frugal as hell. And
Very frugal man.
I have modeled a lot of my money-saving techniques after David.
He has more money than any of us.
He's just the fucking master. He knows
really
what he's
is.
doing.
He knows how to do it.
He's a lot like Lizzie Borden's father, but he's just not dead.
Yeah.
You know?
I think even David would have indoor plumbing, but the family did not, okay? They were also not in an affluent neighborhood, though not in a, here, wait a minute. So the family lived with no indoor plumbing in an affluent neighborhood, so they did live in a neighborhood that was pretty good. Pretty good neighborhood, though not a neighborhood that quite reflected the extent of their financial means.
No, exactly.
So they're like, we're still living under the bar, even though it's kind of nice.
Think of it this way. It's like, if you're from the suburbs or if you're familiar with how suburbs operate, there's always the pockets that are really, really, I guess, driven by money. They're huge houses,
Yes,
yards, things like that. They could afford to be in there. Realistically, they could probably afford any property in that area, but they chose to go to the area next to that, which was a little bit less. I'm not saying it was poor, but it was, it was just normal.
it was just right.
And they, they just saved. So instead of splurging for the big house and the opportunities, they kind of just relaxed and, lived within their means and saved all that money.
That's true. So Lizzie grew up rich, but not flaunting rich.
Yes. Perfect way to say that.
There we go. So, she grew up relatively religious as well. Lizzie did, attending the Central Congregational Church. All right, so that's teaching Sunday school there for children as well as immigrants. Interesting. She even served as a secretary-treasurer of the Christian Endeavor Society, also involved in Women's Christian Temperance Union and Ladies' Fruit and Flower Mission.
Yeah, so in the words of Frank Zappa, she was a Catholic girl.
She was a Catholic girl with a tongue like a cow.
Yep.
She'll make you go wow, all right?
That she will. Actually, I guess they're not really Catholic, but, close enough.
It's the same sentiment is there.
They're a subsidiary of Catholicism.
The religious sort of thing. All right, so sadly, Lizzie's mother died. She died. Her name was Sarah. She died. Sadly, Lizzie's mother, Sarah, died and left a truly devastating gap in the family's dynamic, as you might assume. So Andrew, Lizzie's father, however, quickly filled that gap by marrying one Abby Dufree Gray. Or Dufee Gray.
Dufee.
Dufee. Doofy. I kind of like Doofy's way better.
I just watched that fucking movie. Like literally the other day.
Really?
It's perfect. That's
perfect.
Everything's lining up here.
Everything's amazing today. So Lizzie was relatively defiant to her new mother, referring to her as Miss Borden, often with a condescending tone.
I can't even imagine, because I'll say, like, even today, by societal standards, now obviously everyone's different, so
Everyone is different.
That might be something that's accepted, but I would say by the average societal standards, that's kind of rude almost, or seen as rude. And I can't imagine in the fucking 1800s that was anything but just horrific.
No, yeah, that was probably not very acceptable.
You might as well have called her a cunt.
You couldn't even show your ankles back then. You think you could, like, backhandedly say something to an authority figure? No way. So there you go. Well, Lizzie believed that Addie, I believe it's Addie, or was it Abby? I think it's Abby. It's Abby.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. All right, so Lizzie believed that Abby had married her father for his wealth, which makes sense because he was fucking rich. So the Bordens live in Maid, Maggie, though her name was Bridget Sullivan. They just called her Maggie for some reason. She testified that Lizzie often abstained from eating meals with her father and his new married wife. So she was just not coming to dinner. Classic defiance. All right, so Lizzie was growing increasingly more agitated with her father's actions, and in 1892 took an extended vacation to New Bedford with her sister. And this was apparently sparked by a particularly bad argument. All right, I don't know what the argument was about. Probably the new mom. I would only assume.
Probably.
Yeah, so that's what provoked it. And, so upon returning home, Lizzie decided to remain separate from the main house, choosing to stay in the local rooming house instead for roughly about 4 days. All right, so even when she got home, she was like, I need a vacation from this vacation.
Isn't that the worst? You're like, I'm on vacation and I need a fucking break. I hate this.
It's true. Especially when the family situation is not good, which it was not. Because upon returning after those 4 days, things just continued to get more sour.
Ooh.
All right, like a warhead.
Oh, I'm not even going to lie. I'm glad you said that because that's so descriptive. I love that.
It just hurts.
It's sour. There's something about something that isn't physical that when you say it's sour, it's gross.
You're just like, oh, it's like milk curdling. It's like, no, this is like a warhead.
You know, like when you say, like, someone smells and you're just like, that person just smells sour. It's like, wow. I get it. That person's disgusting.
Just awful.
Sidebar, sorry.
No, it's all good. Yeah. So she was more agitated. She took this vacation. She didn't even come back after that. Stayed in the house for like 4 days. Then she came back. Everything was so sour still. All right. So Andrew had gifted multiple pieces of real estate to various members of Abby's family, which that kind of pissed off Lizzie. So, he's given all these properties. Let's see what else. Andrew gifted the properties to various members of her family. After realizing this, Lizzie and her sister Emma demanded a low rental property. All right, so that had been it was the home that they grew up in with their mother.
Okay.
Right? So they're like, we want this property, and they purchased the property from their father for $1. And then, what did they do after that? They flipped it. Navi knows everything about flipping. They flipped it back to their father for the price of about $5,000, the equivalent to $144,000 today.
Ooh,
So they basically just took a shit ton of money from their dad.
That's fucking crazy.
Isn't that insane?
Yeah, we're just going to take enough money to buy, like, a modest fucking home. Maybe a car, too.
So much shit. You can buy anything with that today. Come on. But, so, yeah. All right, August 3rd, here we are. On August 3rd of 1892, the uncle of Lizzie and Emma on their deceased mother's side of the family, John Morse, that was his name. He was in town, and he was invited to stay with the family for a few days so he and Andrew could discuss business matters.
Right, yes, business.
You know, maybe something having to do with some of the property. Who knows? Around the same time, everyone in the house had grown alarmingly ill. Okay, so kind of weird.
And that will play a significant role later in the initial trial.
Quite a bit.
Jumping ahead, though. Sorry.
No, it's all good. So this could have been due to a particular helping of mutton that had supposedly been on the stovetop for some time at that point that they were just kind of eating off of.
Now, again, I'm going to sidebar here for a second.
No problem.
Mutton, I've eaten it once in my entire life, and I can't even say that it's like traditional mutton. I'm not certain, but I can't imagine that mutton is anything but just sloppy. Like, anytime anyone's ever said the word
sloppy
mutton, and I don't mean it's bad, I just mean it's physically just a mess.
It's just cumbersome.
Like, it's just, you eat it and you're just greasy, and you have like so many dishes and just fucking, you gotta
so
shower.
Many dishes? Is it just like a piece of meat with a bone in it?
Yeah, but there's something about it. I just feel like you have to like bathe.
You're like 6 plates, fucking cutting board, every pan in your fucking shelf.
Yeah,
it's all dirty somehow.
It's crazy. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I got the wrong impression. But I just feel like it's a very dirty meat, you know?
I've no idea. You know what? We should try it sometime. Let's whip up some mutton.
I mean, I was a child, so I can't say that it wasn't bad. I remember not enjoying it, but it wasn't like bad tasting. I think I probably wanted just like chicken nuggets or something.
You're just like, that's way more contained. Chicken nuggets don't ruin everything.
Yeah, it's like I don't have to fucking bathe for a month after I eat a nugget.
Yeah.
But yeah, mutton, it's funny that it seems, again, I mean, I don't know, but mutton seems like a food that I wouldn't suspect of a very high-class family. You know, it's
well, I mean, they were living on the, you know, on the down low.
Yeah, it's true.
They're doing like the Warren Buffett thing. It's like, I buy the same McDonald's breakfast sandwich for $2.99 every morning. He's like, you could have like anything.
You could
have anything at any point in your life. You just get that.
You could purchase McDonald's.
The entire thing, all of the franchises.
And just have it whenever you feel like it for free. He's like, nope, I would never. And that's
it's
a
like,
fair
well,
point.
It's working out for him. I know his name.
But yeah,
just from being rich.
They definitely had some greasy mutton. And
damn right. Everyone was thinking like maybe that's what made the entire family sick at this point. But
I think it's a fair guess.
It is a fair guess, but the new lover, Abby, suspected that the cause may be a poisoning, as Andrew was not particularly well liked in the business world, you know, making caskets and all that stuff. So the next morning is when shit kind of gets nuts. All right, it's about to get freaking insane. On August 4th of 1892, John Morse ate breakfast with the entire family. Okay, so Andrew, Emma, Maggie, the maid, and Lizzie. It was really early in the morning. It was great. They had a great meal. After the meal, he and Andrew retired to Andrew's office, where they just chatted for about an hour. And after this, John departed from the home, purchasing a pair of oxen to take him to visit his niece that was also living in Fall River at the time. So, and then John, he left around 8:48, you know, with the oxen to go visit his niece. And Andrew went for a nice morning walk around 9 a.m. Right? So the house is kind of emptying out a little bit. Although, making up the guest room was one of the chores regularly left to Lizzie and Emma. Okay? So that was the normal thing. They were the ones to clean it up. This morning, Abby went to the room sometime between 9 o'clock and 10:30 to make the bed. That's when she gets fucking murdered. Okay?
Ooh, yeah, and
she's gonna get murdered.
Oh,
Navi,
woof.
come on.
No woofing.
Don't
no
woof.
woofing.
I know you don't like murder as much as we do, okay?
Yeah,
Just sniff my computer, I'll scratch your head.
I know, again, I'm sorry, Jake, I hope this doesn't make you lose your spot, but I do find this to be an interesting story. I'm sure there's people out there that don't care, but I'm going to say it anyway. My buddy, Navi, you know, the dog.
Yeah, that guy who was just yelling.
When I was watching The Walking Dead, I was rewatching it, and he absolutely loved the governor like without question. Like he loved him.
He was a charismatic man first.
I'd watch it. It was just me and him in the house, and he'd be on the couch and he would not sleep. Like he would watch it, and every time the governor was on the screen, he would get really interested. And specifically, spoiler alert, but I mean, this happened about 10 years ago, so fucking grow up.
Yeah, we talk about this show all the time. You should check it out if you haven't at this point.
And the governor, when he dies, Navi actually was whining very loudly for about 5 minutes.
Good Lord, Navi, just the bad memories, huh?
Just the thought of the governor is bringing up negative energy for him. But, so yeah, he does not like death, and it's rough for him, and he's in here with us, so bear with us, it's fine.
Yeah, there's going to be a description of a death now. Are you ready for this? Oh, he's ready.
He's prepared.
He's ready. All right, so this is where the murder begins. All right, so Abby's going up to this room, trying to make the bed. That's usually the job of Lizzie or Emma. But between 9 o'clock and 10:30 in the morning, she enters the guest bedroom, and what do you know? A hatchet hits the side of her skull. Okay? Ooh. When she arrives in the guest room, causing her to fall onto the ground, as it might, just anyone who's hit with a hatchet in the side of the head.
I don't even have to get hit with anything. Sometimes you just fall, you know?
Yeah.
It just happens.
No, it's true. And if that wasn't bad enough, the assailant then proceeded to strike her head with a hatchet 17 more times. According to the report, 17 more times this hatchet went into her head. So that's terrifying. All right, well, after this, it seems like no one heard, like, as this happened. Nobody, like, realized it was happening because the house was enormous, all right? But Andrew then returned from his morning walk around 10:30, okay? So to find that his keys failed to unlock his own front door. How outrageous. How angry would you be, Grant?
Oh, I'd be fucking pissed.
How angry would you be, Navi?
I wouldn't have any other really... Well, I wouldn't have any other way to get to the house. It'd be outraged.
No, he was in a bit of an outrage. He began banging on the door for the attention of Maggie, the live-in maid. Maggie arrived at the door to find it jammed. All right, so that's weird. After muttering an expletive, she claimed to hear Lizzie giggling faintly from the 3rd floor. Isn't that kind of devious?
Ooh, a little bit, yeah.
So, after Andrew found his way inside somehow, he asked where Abby had gone off to which Lizzie replied that she received a summons via messenger to visit a sick friend. Okay.
Ooh,
pretty believable thing for back then, So Lizzie then supposedly helped her father out of his boots and into his slippers so he could take a nap. And after... Wait, what? You were going to say something?
Yeah, actually, I was. I could save it for later, but I think it's a nice detail to throw in now.
Yeah.
That was actually disputed later.
Oh, very much so.
Because he was found dead in his boots. So this will come into play later.
It's true. A lot of holes start to appear.
I wanted to give you guys just a little bit of a taste of what's to come in this very confusing and muddled tale that will happen later.
Yeah. No. It's crazy. He still had the boots on. But this is what she claimed, all right? So she claimed that she helped him out of his boots, put his slippers on so he could take a nap. And after he was laid down on the couch in the downstairs sitting room, Lizzie then informed Maggie of a sale at a nearby department store. So isn't that cool?
Okay.
You got some nice deals over there. And, Lizzie permitted her to go, take advantage of the deals. She was like, you can go leave the house if you want. But Maggie instead chose to, likewise, nap. Okay, so she was napping at the same time as her employer, which is probably a good way to do that if you're a living maid, I would think. All right, so let's go. Later that morning, after, actually it was exactly at 11:10 a.m., Maggie was awake in a room, from her nap. She was cleaning the windows of her own room because, she's a maid, she's cleaning. So that's when she heard Lizzie call out from downstairs. Lizzie screamed, "Maggie, come quick! Father's dead! Somebody came in and killed him." Very, very long thing to scream.
It's a hurry! Oh my God! Somebody's murdered him! Oh my! It's not like
if you discover it's not like it's like, no, Maggie, come quick. Somebody murdered my dad. It's like, oh, wow, that's kind of weird.
Yeah,
weird thing to say.
It's the very subtle clues that will lead to, later in life, the speculation.
There we go.
And that may or may not be one of the positive clues in the favor of Lizzie Borden being a murderer.
No, it's true. And you can hear it. Now he's whining. He does not like all this death.
I know.
Well.
Poor baby.
Poor baby boy. So, Maggie then dashed downstairs to find her employer slumped on the couch with 10 to 11 hatchet wounds. Okay, his wounds were still bleeding at the time that she found it. They were still just like gushing blood. Yeah, right, Navi? I know. So they were gushing blood, and even one of his eyes was fully split in two, suggesting that he was asleep when, at the time of the attack.
Yeah, and that's
so
a crazy fucking thought. Like,
it's like my eye is in half from this hatchet
just
to the face.
The brutal accuracy that takes to split an eyeball. And I mean, I would venture this bet to anybody. Take a cherry and set it down on a table and use a full-sized axe and try to split that motherfucker in half. It's going to take you more than one try, chances are.
But once you get it, it is going to split in fucking half, much like this guy's eye.
It will. It'll do it, but oh my God, that's just wild to me.
It's fucking brutal as hell. But, all right, so the family's physician, Dr. Bowen, he lived across the street, so he came over. And he ruled both Andrew and Abby, after they discovered her in the guest room, to be dead.
I like how it took an expert to rule them dead.
It's like, oh yeah. God, do you think they'll make it?
They're done.
Like,
I'm sorry.
17 and between 10 and 11 hatchet wounds.
I'm sorry to tell you, Miss Borden,
dome?
Your family is dead. It's like, oh God.
Oh God, I didn't think it was that bad.
Can you do anything? Give them CPR. It's like, no. You're not understanding.
Oh,
they're fucking dead.
Jesus. So he also placed the time of death for Andrew at around 11 a.m. exactly. Okay, so this was pretty much exactly 10 minutes before Lizzie called out to Maggie from downstairs.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so weird. The investigation to follow was nothing short of hilarious. Okay, so when questioning Lizzie on the events of the morning, her story would change with each policeman that she would talk to. Every time it would just change in little details. So one story would have her like hearing noises, prompting her investigation. The next would feature no noises, so she discovered the corpse of her father entirely by accident, or whatever. Like it changed every time she told it. What's more is that the police just generally disliked her tone during the whole thing, or more specifically, like her attitude.
Yeah, her attitude, just to give you...
It was too poised. Like, she was too calm and, like, explaining, like, well, let me tell you, this is what happened, and I just had a fright. Like, one of those, just very, very like, oh, yes.
Yeah.
You want to know what happened? I will tell you.
I want you, the listeners out there, when I say you, I want you to personally try and visualize this. You have to imagine that it would be hard for anybody, not even just police and like a judge, to believe you if your father and your stepmother were murdered, and instead of, I guess, having some like reservation about talking about it or just being very distraught.
Yeah, it's like maybe you're in a state of shock, perhaps.
Yeah, like she was extremely coherent to the point where, I mean, she was recounting this whole story just like, boom, 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 boom. Here are the facts. This is what happened. Like,
but again, it kept changing every time she would tell it.
Yeah,
like it's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, it's hard because not only are you dealing with the fact that the story isn't sticking. Sticking's not the right word. The story isn't staying in one particular lane, but also the fact that she is so, I guess, open about discussing it. That
it's like, oh, I'll tell you anything you want to know.
It really leads you to believe that this person either simply doesn't care or has prepared for this moment to a point where this is like scripted, it's rehearsed, it's something that she is very willing and ready to discuss.
Either way, it's pretty terrifying. Either she's detached so much from her family that she really doesn't give a shit, or she murdered them. So
or
it's
both.
Not really. Yeah, it's probably both. But so despite her story changing a bunch, and despite her attitude and demeanor being super weird to the police, despite this, the police failed to search her and her belongings for blood stains at the beginning.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, and what's more, they merely did a cursory search of her room due to her claiming not to feel good.
Yeah, and this would later become like a huge point of contention for people that think she did it, because okay, think of it this way. Somebody is a suspect for murder, and instead of searching her personal room, like her belongings, that'd be like if Jake or I were committed a murder, and they didn't search the podcast studio.
No, yeah, this would probably be where I'd hide the stuff.
Exactly. It's the perfect. It's your like private space where you store your things that you use on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And it's not that they didn't try. I mean, they did ask her if they could search the room, and she was very willing to let it happen. But she also said that she wasn't feeling very well and she needed to rest. So instead of doing a full-on search, they kind of just, for lack of a better idea, they kind of just opened the door and like stepped in and looked around and was like, all right, it's good. Go back to bed. I don't see anything,
yeah.
Go back to sleep. Like, get your rest. Like, I know you're not feeling well.
Well, I mean, the excuse also kind of worked because, like I said before, like the entire family was beginning to become like ill around this time. So It was just like it could be corroborated by the surviving members of the family who were just like, oh yeah, we've all been kind of sick.
Exactly. It's the perfect. It's not only the perfect excuse, but it's the perfect ploy as well.
Yeah.
You just, I still don't feel too good. And obviously, I mean, yeah, you have the whole trauma of your father and stepmother being murdered in your home. But there's more to it than that. She just actually said she did not feel well, and that allowed the police to, I guess, cut their investigation short. And therefore, as of today's standards, not collect the proper amount of evidence you would need to, make a decision.
Yeah, it was not properly done.
Similar to a John Benet Ramsey, where it's like, shit got kind of fucked, and
just a ruined crime scene.
You weren't really able to collect everything you needed to collect. So nobody, even with the decision that was made, you don't know if it's the true decision.
Yeah. No, it's very true. Well, so the sickness line, like I said, with the house, the people in the house, they were all getting sick. And the autopsies of both Andrew and Abby revealed no signs of poisoning or anything of that nature. So Abby's suspicions weren't necessarily, vindicated. But, fun fact, the autopsies of Andrew and Abby were conducted right in the comfort of their own home.
Which is...
So just right in the crime scene. They were just like, let's put him on the counter.
I mean, again, as of today's standards, that is a no-no. That is we don't do that.
Very much so. You can put down as much plastic wrap as you want, but that's not generally smiled upon.
No.
So yeah. So after further search of the house, police found in the basement 2 hatchets, 2 axes, and a hatchet head with a broken handle.
Ooh, and this is my favorite part of the whole story.
Isn't
I don't know why.
Fun?
But it truly gets to me that this is just my absolute favorite part.
It's hilarious, dude. Navi, don't worry about it. All right, so the hatchet head with the broken handle was determined to be the murder weapon due to its appearance that someone had purposely sprinkled dust onto it to give it the appearance that it had been there for some time.
Yes.
But what gave it away was that the break in the handle was new, but the amount of dust on the blade was far more than like the seemingly untouched axes had that were alongside it. So it was just like caked in dust with a brand new break in the handle.
Yes, and you might be wondering out there, how do you say that there's a brand new splinter in wood? Well, it's easy to kind of look at if you know what you're looking for, because the splinters in the wood hadn't settled, I guess. That's a good way to put it. They looked as if they were brand new, like they didn't have time to curl, they didn't have time to set into the rest of the wood and kind of look natural.
Yeah, they probably didn't also have dust in it, like any cobwebs or anything stuck in there, maybe hair.
It looked as if, from the investigative side, it looked as if somebody had taken an axe and split the neck of the axe, and then instead of making it look like the entire axe wasn't used. They just put a shit ton of dust and whatnot on the actual axe head itself.
Just the blade, yeah.
And the rest of it looked pretty fresh. And again, I mean, you could compare this to anything that you have. I would say that probably one of the better examples would be any sort of remote that you might use. When you pick it up, the buttons that you click may or may not have a little bit less dust than the ones that you don't use.
That's very true, yeah.
And that's exactly what this axe seemed like. It had, the handle was not dusty. The break in the neck especially was not dusty. It was brand spanking new.
Inconsistent wear and tear is what it is.
Yes, that honestly, you couldn't have said it any fucking better. That was perfect.
There we go.
Something was wrong. It looked too unnatural, as if somebody had planted evidence.
Yeah.
And I got to give, again, I don't want to say that Lizzie Borden did it. I don't want to say she didn't do it, but whoever,
probably pretty safe, right?
Well, yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean,
whoever it may have been that did these murders and then decided to throw this axe down there, they did both an amazing job at covering it up and also just a terrible job.
Because their shittiness of covering it up would directly point it at Lizzie Borden.
Yes.
So there you go, yeah.
They made one very, very, very terrible error in their placement of the axe. Everything else was stellar. If you would have done the whole thing together, that probably wouldn't have even been something we'd be talking about at this moment.
No, probably not.
But just the very simple fact that didn't work out the way we're talking about, it does not bode well for Ms. Borden.
No, it does not. Well, Navi, don't even worry. Well, the night of August 4th of 1892, so that the day of that night, John, Lizzie's uncle, stayed the night once more. Okay, so this time he was staying in the attic guest room, probably to maybe put some distance between him and possible murderers.
Yeah, I obviously don't fucking blame him. I would never want to sleep in a room that somebody... if I could prove that somebody was murdered in that room, I would not stay there.
No, probably not.
I would rather sleep outside.
If I had, alternative options. Well, so with police stationed around the house all night, there wasn't a thing happening inside that was not seen. And apparently, police saw Lizzie and her friend that stayed the night, that night. The friend was concerned for the family. She was like, I'll stay with you tonight. That was Alice Russell. So Alice and Lizzie apparently were seen going down into the cellar with a gas lamp. Okay, so, you're just moving about your house, whatever. Both young women soon left the cellar, but then Lizzie returned alone shortly after, appearing to hunch over a sink for some time. Very suspicious.
That's the noise I imagine she made, was
either
just that hunch.
Retching and just puking everywhere, or maybe cleaning up some sort of blood. I don't know. I have no idea. But she was hunched over a sink. So the next day, John attempted to leave the house, which is, he wants to leave. But he was swarmed with a mob of people, curious about the goings-on of the household. Hundreds of people, apparently. According to reporters, there were hundreds of people just outside of this police line. So police quickly escorted him back to the house, which is not what he wanted. The next day, August 6th, police did a more thorough search of the home, and this time confiscated the broken hatchet, as well as inspecting the clothes of both Emma and Lizzie, which is probably what they should have done immediately.
Probably, yeah. That's arguably one of the better things you could have done.
Yeah, definitely.
But I wasn't there, so I can't say that that was the
We're
wrong
not policemen.
decision.
We're just talking about it. Well, it was on this day that Lizzie was informed by the mayor of her town. Shut up, Navi. Come on. All right, he's just staring at us. All right, so she was informed by the mayor of the town that she was a suspect for the murders. All right, so the morning after that, John entered the kitchen early in the morning to discover Lizzie on the floor tearing apart one of her dresses.
Tearing apart?
Just on the floor. She was just tearing it apart. So when asked what she was doing, she explained that she was planning to burn the dress because it had accidentally been covered in paint.
Okay. Can
I wonder what color the paint was.
I need to stop here for a singular moment in time. What the fuck kind of excuse is that?
I was just going to burn my clothes because I got a stain on them.
How come? Okay. Again, I mean, maybe this is something they asked and it was just lost in time. How come not a single person inquired as to what the fuck? Where did you encounter wet paint? Like, not a single question of where was it? Was it in the house? Were you out somewhere?
Was it maybe in the basement with all the axes?
Yeah, like, what exactly do you mean by I got wet paint on me? Because it's not every day that wet paint is something you encounter.
Accidentally covered in paint.
Yeah, and also, again, I know that they did not have washers and dryers
They
back
didn't even
in
have
this time.
fucking plumbing in this house.
But if it truly, truly, truly was just paint, was there no way to buff that out or throw it away, or you had to burn it? You know what I mean?
So, I mean, they have meager, living situation, but I guess they are rich. They could just afford to get a new one.
Yeah.
But still, it's
it seems
what are you
like
doing
burning it is such a drastic measure.
Yeah. And
That
tearing it apart on the kitchen floor, just throw the whole thing in the fire.
Exactly. It seems,
Just if that's your end goal.
It seems unbelievable. I mean, that's just me. Obviously, I'm looking at it through a very present-day lens. But I think it's fair to say that seems slightly like a reach.
Maybe some sort of cover-up for some recent crime that occurred, maybe in the house.
Yeah, I mean, even to this day, typically people don't burn their outfits unless there's a very valid reason to.
It takes a lot for me to burn my outfit.
I can honestly say I've never burned any outfit of mine. I mean, I've burned holes unintentionally.
Well, that's just hiding joints from your neighbors.
That's true, but it's still a functional piece of clothing.
There you go, yeah.
It's more
It just
so
becomes the joint shirt.
Yeah, honestly, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't even know what happened to that shirt. It's gone forever now.
Maybe you burned it.
I have it somewhere.
Receiving a call.
Ooh, I'm getting a call.
Let's see who it is.
We'll be back. It's Alex. It's Alex.
Put him on. Get him on.
Okay, let me
Get
call
him
him
on
back.
here.
I'm putting him on speaker. I don't know if y'all can hear him, but I'm putting him on speaker.
Hey, what's up?
Dude, what's
up,
happening?
dude?
You're on the show right now.
I'm here. Oh, what's up?
Dude.
Guys.
Oh, he's here.
Oh, he's here. All right, we'll be back in like less than 36 seconds. That was exactly 35
It's
seconds.
true, and now Alex is here.
For those of you that don't know,
He waved.
again, this might be very off topic here. I don't know where the information came in.
It's okay.
But we don't actually edit any of these episodes. We just go free for all. We do whatever comes out comes out.
We just stop and then start. You know what? I told Griff on the other podcast that that's what we do. He's like, that's editing. Like, not, I mean, sort of, but like, not really.
I guess-
right? Like, would you agree, man?
Really, the only editing that we've actually done today is that we paused it. And we said we'd be back in 36 seconds. Now, for the listeners out there, it might have seemed like, instantaneous.
It was forever.
It was about 20
Yeah.
or so minutes.
In real life.
Actually, I could see. It was actually 48 minutes that we were gone.
Jesus Christ.
We were paused for a solid 48 minutes.
Yeah. Well,
But we're back. We're
yeah.
back.
All right, so let's get back into fucking Lizzie. All right,
Mm-hmm.
Lizzie. She was like, oh, her uncle caught her on the kitchen floor in the morning, just like, oh, I'm gonna tear apart this dress because it got so much paint on it. Now I want to burn it. So I'm pretty sure her uncle told on her because it was then that she was taken to the police station to await trial. Grant.
Ooh, okay.
All right, so yeah, when the time of her trial came, she had been thoroughly doped up with morphine to calm her nerves, apparently.
Yeah, that plays a major role
Yeah.
in what's to come.
A lot
later.
of morphine here. It's said that this may have had a lot to do with her general strangeness when, talking during the trial. As it ensued, her story kept changing, much like it did with the police the day of.
I like how
It just kept changing.
She just cannot keep her story straight. And
This time she kept saying, like, oh, I was reading a magazine in the kitchen. And then my dad came home, and And then I was in the living room ironing. And, like, it's just so many different things. She said she was upstairs. She said she was outside reading magazines. All these things.
She's full of it. Full of it.
Full of it.
I don't believe it.
Murderous
Full of it.
rage.
Full of it.
Yeah. So her story kept changing. Where are we now? So she would also regularly refuse to answer questions, even if the results of which would be beneficial to her case. So she was just refusing to speak, if she wasn't just telling a crazy story.
Yeah, and to compile all this together, so she is dead honest. I mean, no hesitation in her story at all. She is just straight telling you the facts. XYZ, this is what happened, blah, 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 blah.
Not really distraught at all.
On top of that, the information she's giving is not consistent at all.
No, and the biggest example of that, which is what we were talking about earlier, just blatant lying. She said she helped her father out of his boots before he laid down for his nap, and what do you know, crime scene photos showed that Andrew was still wearing the fucking boots.
Exactly. And then on top of that, on top of all of this, now she's just simply refusing to answer questions. And
it's true. She just stopped talking.
Yeah, it's very strange. So we're dealing with a trifecta of shit that's going on in Lizzie Borden's life.
Yeah, she's not really doing good.
No. So that is all leading. It's very against her, to be completely honest with you. It's very against her case. So pretty much what happens here, they request an inquest. And for those of you that don't know what that is, don't feel bad. I had to look that up. I was not sure what that was.
To request an inquest, that just makes me, because I always thought that request and inquest were like the same thing. So I don't know. Mm-hmm. What is it, Grant? What is it?
So an inquest is essentially a pre-trial. So what it is they call you in front of a judge and in front of, other people, you you give the facts. You tell people, what you know, what you did, what happened, blah, 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 blah. You fill in the blanks for everybody. Now, this takes place before a trial. So that you can't be, tried on anything that happens here. It may or may not be used as evidence, but all in all, it's very much just a simple information gathering.
It's just like an FYI of the trial system, justice.
So this took place on August 8th. Now, Lizzie, when I say she, I mean Lizzie, she requested that her family attorney be present for all of this, and they denied her that right. And simply
seems not cool.
Simply because the state statute said that an inquest must be held in private. So that would mean that no lawyers are to be present. Nothing like that should happen.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. So this is where the information really kind of came to a head, right? And what they learned is that Lizzie Borden was on a very heavy dose of morphine immediately after the murders took place, okay?
Yeah.
And this was later used, obviously we'll circle back to this in a moment here, but this was later used as evidence for Lizzie Borden's innocence, stating that, she couldn't corroborate her story. She had a hard time talking because she was drugged up. I mean, she's fucked up.
Yeah. No.
So we got all that going on.
When you're partying on drugs, you don't really want to explain your crimes.
Mm-hmm. So all of this continues. Like Jake said, her story is obviously not very consistent. It's bouncing around a lot. We don't have any solid information because the person they're asking, Lizzie Borden, is not giving information that can truly be identified as factual. They're getting one thing, then they ask her the same question again, they're getting a second opinion.
Yeah, just blame it on the morphine.
All from one person. So this is causing a lot of issues in the actual case. So now we move into June 5th of 1893. We're talking about 10 months after the whole inquest thing, right?
All right.
So what happens here is we go to the official trial. Just for namesake, we had Hosea M. Knowlton And then we had William H. Moody, who would later become...
I totally thought you were about to say William H. Macy.
That'd be cool,
That'd
right?
be amazing.
Moody actually became a U.S. Supreme Court justice later in time. But they were the defendants in this case, okay? So they brought to evidence all of the instances that took place in this case. We're talking about the axe head. We're talking about the murders. We're talking about the fucked up, stories, the timelines, things like that.
Roughly 17 strikes to the dome for Abby, and then what was it, 10 to 11 for Andrew?
Yes. So one of the major pillars of the case was the murder weapon, the one that we talked about having evidence of potentially being tampered with.
Yeah, just sprinkle some dust on it.
Right. So what we have here, it kind of backfired because one officer actually testified that a hatchet handle was found near the head of the hatchet that was split, and that would obviously corroborate that Lizzie Borden did it. However, another police officer said that that was not the case at all. So they
don't even have their fucking story straight. They're the police.
No, they did not. They had conflicting evidence against each other, and they're on the same side.
Jesus
right?
Christ!
So we're dealing with that.
Dude, this really is like the John Bonet case. Like the cops are just fucking this up majorly. Like the only thing missing from this one is them cleaning up the crime scene with Clorox.
Yeah, honestly,
it's fucking
that's fair.
Ridiculous.
Then we're going to move into, obviously, what we just spoke about again, the dress that she was burning. There was admittance of both parties. Lizzie Borden actually admitted that she did this, and then the other side actually said that they had evidence to support that she had done this, correct?
Yeah.
And what had come of all this is that simply nothing came of it. Nobody
They just didn't pay attention?
Nobody pressed the issue. Nobody asked further inquiries about the dress burning. They simply took it at face value that she had dipped into some wet paint and, fucked up her dress. And boom, that was it. That was all that she wrote.
No one even talked about possibilities of it not being paint.
No.
Why?
So another point of contention here for the case was that this was really her presence at the home at the time of the murder, okay? So, according to the testimony, Sullivan had entered the second floor of the home at around 10:58.
Who was Maggie?
Yes, Maggie Sullivan. Sorry
the
about
living
that.
maid.
And she had left Lizzie and her father downstairs. So Lizzie had told people that at this time they went to the barn and they were not in the house for probably about 20 minutes to a half hour.
Wait, both her and her father?
Yes, give or take.
Okay.
Now, one of the people that testified for the defense, named Hyman Lebinsky, testified that Lizzie Borden had left the barn at 11:03, and this was later confirmed. At 11:10 a.m., Lizzie called Sullivan, or Maggie, downstairs and told her that Andrew had been murdered. So we have a 7-minute gap between when Lizzie says she was gone and when it was proven by witnesses and other people around the story
Would kind of
that she had
dark
left
things
earlier than she said, and she was actually in the home at the time of the murder. Okay,
dark things are populating those 7 minutes, I would assume.
and this is when we had the great call where she Elizabeth Borden had called Maggie and said, "Oh my God, my father's dead. Somebody do something."
Somebody came in and killed him. Oh my God, Maggie.
Yep. So instead of letting her enter the room to see what was going on, she had simply told Maggie, "Do not come in here and call a doctor." Okay? Weird, right?
Yeah, it's sort of weird.
So on June 5th of 1893, after extensive autopsy work, now both of the heads of Lizzie Borden's stepmother and father were taken off during the autopsy and studied very heavily. And
so they just finished the job right there.
Upon bringing the severed heads into the courtroom, Lizzie Borden actually collapsed. She fainted and just was out of commission.
I thought I killed those things.
So the evidence that suggested that Elizabeth Borden had supposedly bought an acid to potentially poison them was excluded from the testimony.
Yeah, wasn't she like? Didn't she claim she used those to like condition her fur coats or something?
Yes.
Like, but then like some professional on the matter was like, "That's not what they use these things for." So she was like, "Well, I did it." It's like, well, you can't really argue with that.
Yeah, you can't. So the judge had ruled that the owning of poison and that this incident possibly regarding poison, it was too remote in time to have any connection to the actual murder.
Yeah, and again, in the autopsies, the autopsyist or whatever he's called, autopser.
The coroner.
Yeah, it's not as fun. But yeah, that guy, he didn't find any signs of like poisoning in their bodies.
No, absolutely not.
So I can see that. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So after a lot of deliberation, a lengthy summary was given, right? And it supported the defense on June 20th of 1893.
Good Lord.
After an hour of discussing, the jury had acquitted Lizzie Borden of all murder charges. Upon exiting the courthouse, it was reported that Lizzie Borden had said she was the happiest woman in the world. Okay?
No, that makes sense. She got rid of the people she hates, and now everything's fine. Not even in prison.
True.
This girl, yeah.
So after the trial had wrapped up, the Borden sisters had moved into a new modern home in the Hill neighborhood in Fall River. And this was the neighborhood that they didn't live in, but they, it was speculated that they very much could have lived in.
Okay.
This was the inn neighborhood, as they say.
Ooh.
So they had lived with money. And do you want to know the fucked up part?
What?
So Lizzie Borden's stepmother had in her will that all of her property would go to the father. Okay?
Okay.
The father of Lizzie Borden.
Yeah.
And since it was ruled that the stepmother was killed first, all of her property was granted to the father, who was then immediately murdered. So all of her property, as well as the father's property, went to the Borden sisters.
Holy no wonder she's fucking ecstatic.
Yes. So
wow.
Everything that was owned by not only the affluent Mr. Borden, but the stepmother as well, all went to the siblings because of the court ruling that the stepmother was killed first.
Damn, dude, that means all the like maybe gifted things to people in her family like went back to them. They're like the landlords.
Pretty
maybe?
much, yeah. Like
That's crazy.
They made it. So they lived in a house, and they actually named it Maplecroft. That was what Lizzie used to call it.
That's kind of nice.
And they had live-in maids, a housekeeper, and a coachman. Okay.
What does that mean? Oh, like a buggy guy?
Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, and then so pretty much they got everything they could possibly have
They
needed.
started living how they always felt that they probably thought they should. Mm-hmm. Right?
Obviously for, Lizzie's life, she was ostracized by her town for that very reason, and then it actually got a lot worse because she was accused of shoplifting in 1897 in Providence, Rhode Island.
No way.
And that brought her name up again, right?
What was she stealing?
So
Why would she steal? She's so rich.
And then this is unknown, okay? Nobody knows the true valid reason.
Okay.
But in 1905, there was an argument over a party that Elizabeth,
Lizzie.
had thrown for the actress at the time named Nancy O'Neill. There was a huge argument between the sisters, and Emma moved out of the house that year and never spoke to her sister again.
Okay.
Ever again.
What a weird line to draw. It's like, oh, yeah, you killed our parents, but I really wanted to have this party, and you don't agree with me on all the aspects, so you're done, kid. You're out of my life. Mm-hmm. It's like, what a weird line to draw.
So, Elizabeth Borden had her gallbladder removed, and then she died approximately 1 year later on June 1st of 1927 in the very town she lived in, which was Fall River. And following her death, approximately 1 week after, her sister died.
Wow.
And the Lizzies were gone forever.
The Lizzies. The Lizzies.
Now, the one thing that I want to say, this is something that did not come up in court. This is something that came up later. Obviously, throughout time, there has been hundreds upon hundreds of different ideas and, potential ideas and exactly what had occurred on that fateful night, okay?
Okay.
Now, the one thing that is often overlooked is that her father, previous to the murders, had gone into the barn and noticed that there was a massive amount of birds, and specifically pigeons.
Yeah, a lot of pigeons in there.
And he had slaughtered all of them, thinking that they had, gotten in there wrongfully. But it turns out that those were Lizzie's pets. Lizzie loved those.
Yeah,
Birds.
she was trying to find some sort of hobby to distract her from the life with her family that she hated so much. And what do you know? Her dad went in and cut all their heads off with a hatchet.
Mm-hmm. Now, this has obviously led to speculation that this was a very strong motive behind the murder. But all in all we can say as of right now is that Lizzie Borden, as far as the American justice system is concerned, did not kill anybody. Now, there's obviously a lot of evidence that might support her, which, has led to the fact that she's been prominent for so long. We're talking about her, 140 years after the fact, simply for that very reason. It was the original O.J. Simpson, if you will.
Yeah, she's kind of like the OG Casey Anthony.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's weird.
Definitely,
Definitely
guilty.
did it.
Definitely guilty, but somehow is free.
Yeah, I can't say that I know why she got off on that, but it's just that's what it was.
Yeah, no idea. Dude, can you imagine how much money someone would pay for Lizzie Borden's gallbladder? The one that was removed, like just in a jar.
I can't say that I would be willing to pay a lot of money for that, to be honest.
Would you?
To be honest.
Like, what's your cap? Because I would imagine it would start at like at least $5,000.
If
right?
I had the option, I would say somewhere around $10,000. I think is reasonable.
You're willing to drop $10,000 on a murderer's gallbladder?
Yes.
That's fucking badass. That's why we have this podcast. That's why you're here listening. Everybody listening is fucking awesome.
Ain't that the truth? Now,
Yeah.
with that being said, I hope that was a great introduction to the Halloween spooky month.
It's true. Sometimes you can kill people even in your own house and then get away with it.
Yeah.
And then you'll be immortalized through time.
Ain't nothing gonna happen to you. But with that being said, that is effectively our episode for the week.
Don't do that. Don't kill anyone.
No,
But,
no.
unless you're like an officer, there's electric chair, death row, all these different weird things. Or if you're a soldier, you can just kill people as long as they're wearing a certain uniform. But, yeah. Lizzie Borden, spooky season, spooktastic. I think that's the end of the episode.
That is the end of the
That's
episode.
the beginning of October and the end of the episode.
We hope you guys enjoyed this story. We will be back with extreme more amounts of Halloween-themed episodes.
No, it's very true.
We're going to have a great month for you guys coming up. We got, 4 episodes just based on the way the time falls.
Probably. I mean, this is the first today, so we got nothing but time.
Yeah, so we got 3 more episodes at the very minimum of what you guys are going to fucking hear coming up, and you're going to love it, I promise you.
Oh, it's awesome. And in the meantime, you can follow us on all the shit. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and we have the email, startthecult@gmail.com, and there's a link to our Patreon down below, and we do bi-weekly episodes.
Yeah.
The next one's coming this coming Thursday, so all you patrons out there will be listening for that one. The last time we just complained about work
Yeah, we did.
for roughly 40 minutes.
We'll see what happens again.
So it's just anything that might be on the top of our mind. But anyway, that's us. That's Grant, and I'm Jake, and this is We Are Starting a Cult. Mitch
is present.